Hi everybody! I hope you're all having a good day. I hope you're all smiling and enjoying your lovely day. So in this following tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you on how to model a very simple t-shirt for your Vroid model. Now this tutorial is primarily for those who are basically interested in trying to make from scratch assets for your Vroid model. And I just kind of want to help for those who are interested, getting into the route of learning how to use Blender more, slowly get comfortable using Blender basically, with especially Vroid users. Now, I will say this first and foremost. If you're an absolute beginner at Blender, you have no idea how to use Blender at all, you don't know how to change your cameras, or you don't know the basic hotkeys for Blender, such as how to get into edit mode and all that other stuff, please do not watch this tutorial. Please take the time to Google the different controls for Blender and basically just take the time learning the controls before attempting this tutorial. I will say that because this tutorial will assume that you already know the controls, you have like a sort of basic understanding of Blender, but you just need some assistance regarding how to model certain stuff, or at least get the general workflow on modeling certain stuff basically. And I will also say, this tutorial is not only for Vroid models. While yes, I am using a Vroid model, and this video is primarily for Vroid users, at the same time, if you are a boost model, a from scratch model, Ready Player Me model, MetaHuman, whatever model type, even Dot Studio, MMD, I don't care what model type you are, this tutorial also applies to you guys as well. You just have to apply your knowledge, and if you don't know how to apply your knowledge, please Google how to do that. But either way, you should pretty much be a-okay though, and hopefully I'll do my best to explain how to make a simple t-shirt. Now, it's not going to be super realistic or anything like that, but just more of to help you out on understanding the basic workflow on a simple t-shirt. You can go up and beyond, making it more realistic or adding more details if you want, but I'm just going to keep it as simple as possible. Now, in case you're wondering, how on earth did the Vroid model get into Blender? Well, you have to download a plugin called VRM Blender add-on. It's in the description below, and I will also leave a tutorial on how to install add-ons. Again, if you're an absolute beginner, please Google how to use Blender before attempting this tutorial. But there should be that below, and I'll also I do have my Dumbify Blender series, so if you prefer learning Blender for absolute beginners, with my wording or my voice or something like that, if you prefer my teaching Blender, I do have that Dumbify Blender series that should be best for absolute beginners of Blender. But either way, let's get started. So once you have your model imported to Blender, basically, which I won't be covering exactly the whole add-on thing, again, you'll have to look up other tutorials for that, or I can even make my own dedicated tutorial on VRM import for Blender. But basically, what you're going to do, first and foremost, because this is Test Chan, by the way, hi Test Chan, we're going to start off by deleting the shirt, basically. So, of course, there is the Vroid shirt, basically, which, I would recommend, if depending on how you set up the shirt, you don't have to delete it, but if you really want to make a from scratch shirt, the first thing foremost is that you're gonna have to go to edit mode. And by the way, there is this little area here that shows you what exactly I'm pressing on, so you can slow down the YouTube video with the speed settings and take a look at this if you get confused or lost. But I'm gonna go into edit mode by tab key. I'm going to do Control L, select click and drag some vertices, and then Control L, and start by selecting some vertices here. That way we can begin deleting that specific part of the the Vroid model, basically. We want to get rid of the shirt, so that way we can at least make our own from scratch shirt for practice. So once you selected it, and do Control L, once you selected as much vertices as possible, you're going to press the X button, vertices, and basically there will be, there'll maybe still be some meshes here, so make sure you delete that. So do that real quickly. Alright, delete away. Another thing, by the way, also, I will give you a little fun fact. Hopefully this won't throw you off. So, let me show you real quickly. Here's a quicker way also to delete closing. I wanted to at least show you the manual way, but to show you quickly on a more faster way. On the material tab here, which this is a material tab, there is going to be, make sure in edit mode by the way, there is a material called tops, basically. F00_001, like there's a lot of underscores, I don't know why Vroid does that. But basically there is a tops material right here, looks like this. Hopefully the video quality you can see it. You're going to select it, you're going to select the material slot, then you're going to click on the select button, and then you can press the X button. That can also delete the clothing a lot more faster and easier for you. Same thing with a bow, so if you have like a bow or a tie or anything like that, you can click on accessory and delete it. This applies to everything else on the model, like the skirt, the shoes, not really the socks are just painted on the model, or the base model, but that's perfectly fine, that's just 3D. But basically you could delete some certain stuff basically, so yeah, just to get you started. So pretty much we have the shirt removed, and now what we're going to do is we're going to begin modeling. We're going to model a t-shirt. So what you're going to do is you're going to press on Shift A, and then you're going to go to mesh, and then you're going to click on cylinder. Now on the bottom left area here, by default it's set to 32. However, that's for me personally, when I model shirts, that seems to be too much for me. So personally, I put the number to 16. That way, when I do split down the middle for mirror modifier, it will be just 8 vertices I have to work with to start off. The next thing I also do is I make sure the cap fill size here is set to nothing. That way, there is nothing. That way we can make the tube of the shirt and do our stuff there basically. So, besides that, what we're going to go do now is we're going to press the Z button, and we're going to go into solid view. This will help us be able to see our shading, the smoothness basically. It's important to model in solid view if possible, primarily just so you can make sure that the shading of the mesh while you model is looking pretty good and smooth. I mean, again, it depends on your preference, but I won't overcomplicate it. So, what you're going to do is you're going to go edit mode. So you're going to select the cylinder, press the tab key, or just top left edit mode, whichever your preference is. And we're going to press the Z button and go to wireframe. And what we're going to do is we're going to move to the top, and we're going to click and drag, and we're going to delete. So click and drag, and then the X button. And make sure you're on Versi mode. Fun fact, again, this is mentioned in my Demify Blender series. So basically there is number 1, so number 1 is your vertices selection. Number 2 on the keyboard is for your edge selection, and number 3 is for the face selection. You can utilize this, especially remember 3D it deals with geometry, so yeah. Just keep that in mind. Anything 3D, geometry. So, yeah. So we're gonna click and drag, make sure that the number 1 is pressed, but by default it should be vertices. Press the X button and click on vertices. Delete it, basically. X, delete vertices. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go into the modifiers. We're gonna go up here to add modifier, and you're gonna click here that says mirror. Then you're going to click on the option here above my halo that says clipping. That way, what it does for clipping, it makes sure, which I'll go ahead and click on this move button right here. It makes sure that the middle part of the mesh stays put, basically. That way there's no holes being created, basically. So that's why I do that. And then what we can also do is add modifier and click on subdivision surface. What this will do is that it will basically turn it basically helps, like, as you model, it will make your mesh smoother. Now I will mention, by the way, when it comes to subdivision here, right? Do not abuse the amount of vertices on your mesh, by the way, because remember, subdivision is doing the smoothing work for you. So I'm not sure if you played with Photoshop and the pen tool before, but treat it like anchor points. I'm not sure, again, I cannot read your mind, sadly, but basically what we have to do is treat it like anchor points, basically, where, you know, as we start adding more vertices, basically slowly, we can't add too much because eventually it will be smooth. It's doing the smoothing for us, basically. I'm not sure how to break it down in the very simplest form. But anyways, and also by the way, I will be messing with a numpad. By the way, just look at my look at the little thing right here. This thing will tell you what button I'm pressing. By the way, because sometimes I don't think when I press the numpad. By the way, if you don't have a numpad button, just go to View up here. Go all the way down to Viewpoint. And then select which one if you're a laptop user, which again I would not recommend laptops for Blender unless you have a numpad. Oops, my bad. Like if you have a laptop and a numpad with it, you're perfectly fine. But if you have no numpad, I would recommend getting an external numpad if possible. But either way, let's not overcomplicate this any further. So anyways, what we're going to do is I'm going to press the S button and we're going to basically scale the cylinder. I'm pressing the G button so we can move it upward here. Now, because I was demonstrating this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete these vertices with the X button. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by fitting the cylinder on the Vroid model's torso, because if you're trying to make a shirt, you want to make it so that way it starts fitting. And remember, utilize like keep it simple, no need to overcomplicate it. But start off with just 2 rows of vertices and just try to get it so it's like sort of skin tight. I mean, unless you want baggy clothes. If you want baggy, then just try and make it space out, but don't do it like this, because why would you have a shirt this big? Unless the character model itself is big, but we're keeping it according to this body type. So unless like I said, whatever you want. If you want baggier, you can make it a little bit spaced out from the model, like I guess something like this if you want baggy, but again, your preference. But either way, not to overcomplicate with different stuff basically. So what we're going to do is we're going to I'm just going to adjust this a little further, just moving the vertices around. And I apologize in advance if what I'm doing right now confuses you. Again, if you're an absolute beginner at Blender, please take the time to Google self-experiment with Blender. That way you can better understand Blender. Because, again, this is more for those who have a basic understanding with Blender, basically. Or at least a hotkey understanding. So, what we're going to do now. Now, I will say... there is, I do want to mention this when it comes to, like, modeling shirts, especially particularly for characters with a bigger chest, basically. So there are technically 2 ways you can actually, like, model the shirt, basically, at least for the front area. So I just wanted to at least quickly demonstrate this, so I'm going to go ahead and switch to edge mode with the number 2 button. And one way, just to quickly demonstrate, we're going to do it the other way though, but to quickly demonstrate, you could do it where you take one of the edges and you sort of like, and I'm going to just use the R button to like, you know, change the rotation of the vertices basically. But you could have it where you do this where it just sort of like surrounds the chest area basically. And then you could just fill it in here and then sort of like, number 2, Shift Alt, by the way, Shift Alt, and then double click on the edge, by the way, to do whatever I just did. And then E button, to extrude the vertices, and I'll have to make sure this button is selected. And you could have it where you could do something like this, S button, just a quick demonstration. Do not do this, unless you want this sort of outfit. But I'm just like quickly showing you basically. I'm going to press the O button for proportional edit real quick. But you could do it where something like this you could do, but I would not prefer. I mean, unless, depending on the outfit you're trying to do, maybe like sometime for bras you can do that. But again, it depends on the outfit, but we're not going to do that method. I just want to like show that real quickly for those who want something like that, I guess. But either way, we're going to do a different method. But there's that method for those who want a different route on the chest area, but we're going to do a more simpler method. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into wireframe. We're going to select these vertices here. We're going to press the E button and we're going to extrude upward, and you're going to basically adjust the vertices as you go. I'm also going to add another row here just so it's a little bit more skin tight basically. So yeah. And then what we're gonna do for the chest area, basically, keep it simple. Just model it over like this, basically. Keep it simple. Because again, you know, this tutorial isn't like something too crazy. Just more of, we're making a shirt. Easy like that. Very simple shirt. So basically you can like start like adjusting the vertices so it starts going over the body, basically, like that. And then what we're going to do, go back to wireframe, and then basically extrude again. But actually, what we're going to do is a little different. So what I do with my shirts, I would start by selecting the back part here. And this is where we're gonna start like preparing to make that sort of loop. So it's kind of like you're gonna make a tank top, basically. So we're gonna start with a tank top, then we're gonna get into making the actual shirt. But we start off by extruding the back part. That way there is that shirt loop going on. And then you're going to select these vertices here. And then you're going to make sure these two are excluded, or depending on how much. Then you're going to extrude it upward, basically, and you're going to have it where it's going to start looking weird, but then you're going to shape it. Shape it to the body, basically. Easy peasy. Shape it, shape it, shape it. And that way, we can eventually start making it look prettier. But pretty much just move the vertices individually, or you can use proportional tool edit with the O button and just click and drag. And in case you're wondering, if let's say for example you don't see the sphere, you see this little like circle here, right? If this circle is not showing up for you and this is happening, use the middle mouse. So with your left with your, like, this is your right hand, right? Unless you're lefty, but I'm gonna say my right hand. With my right hand, my left index is on the left clicker, and then my middle finger is on the scroll wheel, and I use my middle finger to basically scroll, like move from bottom to top on the scroll wheel. That way, if I'm doing, like, if I don't see the sphere, I use my middle finger just to adjust it, basically. Simple. And then what we're going to do now, which I think I probably, I might have to delete these two, probably. Actually, let's give, okay, I might have to add another loop here. So I'm gonna add another loop with Control R, and then I'm going to extrude this, basically, just so that way it'll fit with the loop I'm trying to do. So E, and then E, and then number 2 button. I'm gonna select these two edges, press the F button to fill the faces, basically. Number 1 for vertice mode, and then I'm going to start filling in the faces here. That way we can start forming like a tank top look. If you want a tank top, then by all means you made a tank top. So alright, so basically we're going to press the F button for that, and then we're going to do Control R, and we're going to pick this up, so that way it that way we can make it into an arch, basically. You're going to rotate it, and this is where basically this is more of tweaking, basically. So you got the general shape of the what will soon be a t-shirt, but what you now have to do is you have to just tweak it to the shape that you want. And again, if needed, just you can look up on Google some shirt references to help you out on like bettering, your modeling. Like if you need some references, or if you don't know how a shirt looks like, that's perfectly fine. References do help a lot. Because I know we do wear shirts every day, or at least I hope most of us do wear shirts. But for the most part, though, I will say sometimes it's more of like we have to make sure we take the time to study the actual shape. Like we know what a shirt is, but it's a matter of like studying the shape of it that will make it into a shirt, basically. But either way, this is at least like I could spend a little bit more time on this as well, but I don't want to spend too much time on this. But basically, just model however you like it, basically. I'm probably gonna make it so the chest doesn't like we can kind of have it like flat here, basically. That way, because the thing with a shirt is that you're not gonna really like form the the chest basically. It's more of like it's gonna be sort of like flat-ish looking basically, if that makes sense. And then I'll also once again go to front view, double check to make sure like if it looks too baggy to kind of like move it inward basically. But again, just tweak it however you want though. Apply your knowledge to your preference of the shirt. But at least we made a pretty good shirt, you know, at the start. And then what you're going to do now, if you want to add a collar to your shirt, by the way, I'll show you quickie. So we're gonna press the number 2 button. We're going to Shift Alt the edges here, and what you can do is you can extrude upward basically, and start slowly tweaking to make like let's say like a shirt collar basically, just to show you. So. Collar. So number 2, Shift Alt, and then we can start extruding, press the E button, and we just use the S button to scale outward to sort of like form a collar, just to show you. And also, let's say if you want that middle like V shape at the middle, just take this vertice, right? Go here to the mirror modifier, disable clipping here, that way you can split the vertices again, and boom, you can make like a shirt collar basically. And then if you want to get the sharpness, by the way, because you know to get that V shape it has to be pretty sharp, you just have to press the N button, and then you're going to go into the items tab up here, and then you're going to increase your vertex crease here. That way the vertice will be sharper. That way instead of it being very round, you can utilize it to get like the exact shape basically, so it definitely helps a lot. So yeah, pretty much that's pretty much it in like a nutshell basically. Again, you can adjust it however you want on how to, you know, on how you prefer your the collar should be. You know, you can make it tighter, tweak it however you want, but that's basically in a nutshell like how you could start off with making that. Otherwise, if you don't want this, you could just delete it or just don't do it. But either way, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make some sleeves. So with sleeves, this is why it's very important we have the sort of like circle area here. Now do keep in mind for certain shirts or outfits, it doesn't have to be super tight to the, well, it depends on the outfit, depends. But for the most part, you do want to try and get close as possible to the arms. That way it doesn't look too droopy-ish, but we'll see how this goes. So what we're going to do, once, you know, you do some tweaking, which tweaking means doing tiny edits to refine the mesh, you're going to press number 2, and then you're going to select the edge, Shift Alt to select the loop, and then number 1 pad, and then press the E button, press the X button, and then you're going to start extruding outward. Then you're going to press the S button, then you're going to press the S button, then the X button. So S for scale, then the X for the X axis, and then press the 0 button on your keyboard. That way it will zero out, basically it will help like make the vertices line up basically, so 0 scale. And then pretty much you pretty much have some sleeves basically. And then you can extrude it however long as you want. So if you want to have longer sleeves, you can. But make sure you distribute the, make sure that you do distribute the vertices well. Because if you just do it like this, if you do it like this, while it can, I guess, look good to you, like luckily with subdivision, it will still add some vertices, of course. But with how we're doing it, you can see how there's still not enough vertices. But again, do not add too much, but just add the right amount, basically. Which, in case you're wondering what's the right amount just really depends on how you perceive the right amount, basically. I guess depending on the outfit you're making. Also, don't mind me doing some extra tweaking. Again, if you're an absolute beginner, I'm just reminding you again, please check out my Dumbify Blender series so you can better understand what the heck I'm doing here. The small edits are quite fast. But you may have to add some more, like for this, you may have to add some more vertices though, pretty much. But basically, just to show you what is too much, something like this here, this is too much because you have subdivision doing all the work for you already. So this alone this is too much. That's an example. This, what I show right now, this is too little. But the right amount, which I need to tweak this a little bit. Just a little more, just to show. But something like, sort of like this, depending on the outfit complexity and all that. Something like this could be like pretty alright, basically. Because it's evenly distributed. It's not too much, but it's also not too little either, basically. But this is just how you can make it if you're doing like long sleeve and you're curious about like how you would do it. This is how you would do it, basically. And of course, do keep in mind you're probably gonna have some clipping issues, which again, this is primarily I can only explain so much in one tutorial, I will say, but I will note you're gonna have to look into like weight paint transfer, and then if you still have some clipping issues with your model, you're probably, you know, before you export your avatar and all that, make sure you delete the inner mesh. So make sure you have like an alt model that has the base, like the inner body basically, but for your actual outfit, like let's say the long sleeves, you're gonna have to delete what's inside. Remember, your 3D model is not a human being, so it is okay to delete these parts of the vertices just so that way there's less clipping. I will say that do not treat the I know you love the model, but remember, this thing is just geometry mesh. This is just geometric meshes. It's not a real person, I'm sorry. But yeah, either way though, sorry about that, but either way, but pretty much that's how you would make long sleeves though, and again, you can make it however style you want it. Again, just apply your knowledge, but again, I guess like you can make it like the sleeves kind of poke out here or something. I don't know. It really depends on what you're looking for. So you'll just have to tweak it according to what you want it basically. So yeah. But either way, what I do want is I want short sleeves though. So I'm going to delete my faces and basically we'll just have this simple shirt here. Simple as that. Now, of course, in case you're wondering, Kana, how do I add thickness to the outfit, basically? Well, just to keep it simple and not overcomplicate, what you can do is you can go to the add modifier, and then you can click on solidify. That way you can add some thickness to your outfit. I would recommend, though, which I'm going to have to duck down even more, right here in the thickness slider, you're probably going to have to decrease the number to, let's say, 0.001. So there is like thickness there, but it's not too much. But again, play with the saying however you want, basically. So yeah. And pretty much, you know, just do some tweaking and stuff. I could go even more in depth about this, but just to keep it simple for beginners, this is pretty much how you would make a shirt. And if you follow along whatever the heck I just did and you actually made a shirt, then I congratulate you. Good job. You just finally, you did made model. Good job. Hooray. You did good. But what about the blockiness? Oh my god, that looks ugly. Blocky. Well, don't worry. This is how you fix it. Select your mesh here, and then you're going to go object, and you're going to click on shade smooth, and boom. Beautiful. Gorgeous. Another thing I'll also recommend too, press the tab key, select, now this is, right now it's fine, but for future reference, do shift, I think it was shift N, I believe, yeah, shift N, and what that does, it'll recalculate your normal, so like, as you kind of saw like that slight little difference there, basically what it'll do is that it'll correct any weird, shader issues, so I would recommend whenever you're modeling, do shift N, not too much, obviously, but, you know, just to keep that in mind, and if by any chance, actually, I'll keep it simple for now, but just keep in mind, there's probably going to be some tiny details that this tutorial may not cover, though, which is why I recommend Googling, so, yeah, but either way, though, that's pretty much in a nutshell how you make a t-shirt. Now, before we end this tutorial, I will quickly show you guys how do you texture or how you color the shirt and how do you rig it quickly, just in case anybody asks. So basically what you're going to do is go to Z render mode, just to see how your character looks, or actually not rendered, material preview actually, that would be better. But basically, as you can see, nice t-shirt. But what you're gonna do, we're gonna start off by coloring the shirt basically. So I'll show you how to UV map it and how to do like some quick texturing, but again, I already have a tutorial on how to do that, so I would recommend check those out, or Google how to texture in Blender. But either way, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna go into edit mode for the shirt, right? And what we're going to do is we're gonna go into edge mode by pressing the 2 button. And what we're going to do, we're going to start off by taking this part of the shirt, right? You see this? Shift Alt and select this loop, basically. And make sure you go wireframe and double check that the loop is selected. Then, what you're going to do, if you have a collar, then select this part, or actually select this part probably. Select this part of your collar, basically. But it should be fine, though, honestly. But again, it just depends. But you could select that part. It's basically for the UV mapping, but I think this should be enough. We'll take a look. So basically what you're going to do, you're going to select this part of the sleeve, and then you're going to do UV, mark seam, select everything with the A key, and then you're going to go to UV, and then unwrap it. And what you see here, you see this? You just made a UV map. What this does is basically it's translating the 3D mesh into a 2D, basically like a 2D image, basically, if that makes sense. So it's like unwrapping the 3D, so that way when we're making like a picture, like let's say we take a picture of puppies, right, and we want that to be our shirt, for example, we can't without UV mapping, we will not be able to have puppies on our t-shirt, basically. So UV mapping helps translate PNGs over to the 3D models, basically. So yeah. And again, I'll say this right now, when it comes to marking seam, in case you're confused, marking seam, what it does is that it helps split parts of the model, because usually you can't just select the mesh, go to unwrap, and it'll look good. Like, this looks alright, but you'll see how this looks pinched. Unless you do manual edit, of course, that it can be helped. But as you get more complicated with your meshes, you're going to have to mark seam and split the mesh. So the reason why I added a mark seam here is because what I'm doing is I'm telling Blender that this part is splitting this area of the sleeve and this part of the shirt. That's why we do mark seam. If you don't do it, the more complicated your mesh, the more uglier your UVs are, and therefore your textures will not look good, basically. Now, I will also elaborate, not every mesh has to have the perfect UV. It just depends on what colors or how the shading will look like. If you want, like, let's say, for example, you want a gradient, right? The UV will probably look very ugly to achieve a gradient look, which I'll show you. So just select your mesh, go to UV, and then go to project from view, and that's usually best for gradients, but depending on how you're coloring it, you're probably just going to stick with like manually marking seams, and that's about it. Which honestly is much better if you just mark seam and just UV edit manually, just better. There are ways to automatically UV map, but it's like, you are better off just manually doing it. But either way, I'm going to try not to overcomplicate any further about UV mapping. And in case you're wondering, it was the top tabs here, by the way. That's how I was able to switch tabs, basically. So, now what we're going to do, now that we prepared the UV map, you're going to go into the material tab, and you're going to add a new material. Go ahead and call it shirt. And what we're going to do is on the Principled BSDF here, you're going to click on this yellow button near base color. Select it, and then you're going to add image texture. And then you're going to click on new, and you're going to name this shirt. I highly recommend increase the resolution. I personally usually go for a higher resolution, but for this tutorial, I would say let's go for 2048 by 2048, basically. And you can change the base color of your shirt to however you want. Let's say I want a blue shirt, for instance. So yeah. And there you go, you got a blue shirt. So that texture, basically we're going to go into texture paint. And here we can basically paint out the texture, basically. Just to make sure. Also, yeah, so basically what you could do, in case you're wondering, like, let's say you are using a Vroid model or an anime character, and you see this and it's like, it's really hard to tell if the colors are correct here, you're just gonna click on this button up here, and you're gonna click on flat, and that will make it where it's an unlit shader, so you can see, like, the actual correct colors on the texture. It will not read your diffuse color. It will only read the texture and what you painted. So do excuse if your eyelashes, and hair turn gray or something because you use diffuse color, but that's perfectly fine. Don't worry. And pretty much for the most part, you can just go here. Again, I check out my Dumbify Blender series, which goes over the texturing, but you can just texture however you want. Do some pretty wacky stuff, basically, I guess, depending. I don't know. Do some funny stuff, basically, with the shirt, I guess. But basically, in a nutshell, oops, let me just go ahead and find that shirt again. There you go. But basically, paint it however you want. Let's say I just want to draw a heart, so I'm just gonna draw a heart like that, and up. There we go. And no, come on, you can do it. There you go. Alright, and then now that we have a heart, let's say for example, we're going to click on images up here, and you're going to save as, and you're going to save it somewhere on your desktop, basically. So that's how you will export it, and you're going to load that image to Unity, basically, which I will not be covering how to do the whole Unity stuff, basically. You're going to have to apply your knowledge for that, and also look up a VRM conversion tutorial for that. But basically, that's how you would get your outfit colored, basically. And the last thing is, how do you get to follow your avatar? Because when we have our armature here, which I can toggle the armature right here, basically. Go into pose mode, and as you can see, it's not following. What do I do? Just to show you, start off by selecting your Vroid model, right? Go over here, select the body material, and click on select, right? Then press the P button and press on select. So we're gonna split the mesh. So you should only have just the body. Now, if by any chance you are using like a new version of Vroid, right? And you did not click on, I don't know why Vroid does this. I really do not like them for having this on by default. But basically, there's a button that says delete invisible meshes, or delete transparent meshes, basically. If you forgot to make that option off, basically, it's going to probably delete some parts of your body, basically. So I recommend at least having the base model if possible. But either way, just want to at least mention that, so better check Vroid if by any chance your body is not whole, basically. So what you're going to do is you're going to select your mesh. Actually, before we do that, you're going to select the shirt here, right? So, like, when you're done with it, make sure that you apply your modifiers, both mirror and subdivision. And we're going to apply the solidify last. So, hold on. Before you apply this modifier, you're going to select the shirt, shift select the armature here, Control P, click on empty groups. That will generate the vertex groups here. That way, it will be connected to the armature. But now we're going to transfer the weight paint data from the body to the shirt, basically. That way, it will follow. So what you're going to do is you're going to select your body. You're going to shift select the shirt. You're going to go from object mode to weight paint mode. You're going to click on weights. You're going to click on transfer weights. And what you're going to do is you're going to go to vertex mapping, select nearest face interpolated, make the ray radius to 5 meters, and then source layer selection by name. And after you do that, you're done. So then we can exit weight paint mode, select the armature, go to pose mode, and then look at that. Now we have it where the shirt follows. So now it looks good. Now the last thing, before we add the solidify modifier and call this done, you're going to select the shirt, go back to weight paint mode, and add smooth, click on the smooth, basically. And then you're going to, which smoothing is right up here, basically. There it is, smooth. You're going to click on subset all groups, and you're going to make the factor to 1. What this will do, as you saw right there in the armpit, it will smooth out the weight paint, so instead of this, it's going to look much nicer, basically, just to keep it simple. So I definitely recommend smoothing your weights, but that's basically how you would do that. And then make sure that this is set to T-pose, just in case. And then you're going to select the shirt, and then you're going to apply your solidify modifier, and there you go. You just made a shirt for a Vroid model. Congratulations, you are now officially a modeler. How did that make you feel? Tell me. Okay, but either way, there you go. Now, you can now make outfits, basically. So yeah, of course there may be some clipping issues. Do keep that in mind. If you're trying to figure out why there's clipping issues, you can either A, delete the inner body if the body itself is having some clipping issues. B, you could probably adjust the mesh around. You know, tweak with it a little bit more to like try and like reduce it, basically. Which I would advise be a little careful if you're gonna tweak it to sort of fix it, basically. Also, but let's say, I will also say as well, if you apply the mirror modifier, by the way, and you're wondering how do you keep the shirt symmetric, just click on, so when you're in edit mode, click on the X button on the top part right here, basically. And that way it will stay symmetrical the entire time, basically. Highly recommend do that, especially when you apply the modifier. That way it'll mirror to the other side. But you can adjust the mesh, or you could just go to weight paint, and then go to each of your vertex groups, basically. So click on this, drag it, and then you could just adjust the weight paint and mess around with it. I won't be going over that, but basically you could tweak it. You could check out a weight paint tutorial. I also have 2 different weight paint tutorials if you want to check those out. Otherwise, you can self-experiment or just Google weight paint stuff. So, yeah. But either way, though, pretty much, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And also, you can just go ahead on the top part here with the body, because I said to split it. You can go ahead and merge those back, basically. So, yeah. But there you go. Now, pretty much you have a shirt, and all you have to do is just export this as an FBX. Or, if you know your way with the VRM add-on, you could export your VRM model from Blender, but then again, I would prefer doing it the manual way by converting this to FBX and doing the whole VRM conversion process. So yeah, but either way though, I hope that this tutorial helps you out on at least understanding how to model a shirt, or at least getting yourself used to modeling in Blender. So yeah, hope that helps. Let me know what you think, and yeah, if you have any other questions on modeling, feel free to let me know, or if you have recommendation for a tutorial, please comment down. I'm literally looking for any tutorial recommendations or requests for me to make, basically. But either way, if you have any other questions, please Google your question first before asking me. Google before me. And yeah, for the most part, I think that should be it. I'll leave my socials here, though, if you ever want to contact me, basically, if anything. And yeah, that should be it from me, though. I hope you have a lovely day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye, and remember to Google. Bye!